a journey of home renovation and maintenance. Welcome to Maintaining 18. At this point, the planter box is half complete. Recently, the gardening propaganda machine visited the 18th. Now gardening has become a priority. Last year, efforts at gardening with an in-ground area failed. In this episode, the construction of a sub-irrigated planter box. The planter box will be 32 square feet or 8 feet by 4 feet. The planter box construction is of pressure-treated 1x6 lumber, 2x2 lumber, and 1x4 lumber. At the end of the episode, a talk on the challenges faced. And now, visible is the second of two sides, 8 feet in length. Pocket holes are used in abundance to keep the box together. Making a mark to align the pocket holes. Each 1x6 is put through the jig and pocket holes created. The process went relatively quick, a few minutes. At this point, the installation of screws into the pocket holes keeps the side together. Glues and screws attach 2x2 primary supports. There are 4 along the 8 feet side. Only 2 hold up the box. Screws were installed in pre-drilled holes. However, this was not necessary with the types of screws being used. Pre-drilling the screw location prevents splitting. A goal of the design is to hide the fasteners. Trim will hide screws at the corner of the planter box, but not in the middle. With that said, the screws could have been installed through the 1x6 lumber and into the 2x2. Visible is cutting the sides to length before assembly. Statement on this challenge later. A wide cutting blade is being used for this process. Assembly of the box by joining the supports together. 600-pound clamping force served better than a 300-pound clamping force. The latter clamp is at the bottom. Without these clamps, the installer will look very, very clumsy. At this point in the build is leveling the box in the location of use. The box was constructed and assembled nearby. The desired level is achieved with shims. Ground contact is made via the primary support at the 4 corners. Next in the build, a frame to serve as bottom supports. It is upon this frame the soil will ultimately rest. The structure is built from 2x4 lumber and offset 1.5 inches from the supports, allowing attachment to the supports. The frame has to be level. A laser level determined where the structure should rest. Screws placed in strategic locations prevented the frame from falling below where it should be. Visible is a sheet of plywood that will sit on top of the frame. The plywood is too large and trimmed to size. Shown is removing 2 inches. The saw guide came in handy. Plywood forms the bottom. At some point during the construction, the plywood was stained. The rationale is if there are leaks which are not detected, the plywood will rot. Staining is a good idea to give the plywood a longer life. Now the plywood is the size, notches are cut to accommodate the primary supports. Now the sides are exposed, a quick touch-up is required to protect them. Shown is installing the lining to contain the water. Please leave a comment on how to install a lining best. It is essential to be delicate and not create any holes in the lining. The lining was secured with staples and only at the top. Next in the construction is the installation of drain pipes. These are 4 inches in diameter. The installation begins by cutting the tubes to size. A 2x4 to keep each segment straight for measuring and cutting. A serrated knife cuts well and gives plenty of control. A saw will work well. A utility knife is too short and not recommended. The intention was to obtain perforated pipes. Unfortunately, there was none. Fortunately, there was none. Perforated pipes are more expensive and have holes all around, and possibly allowing dirt or debris to fall into the pipe. Solid pipe is cheaper and the holes go exactly where they're needed. Holes drilled into the tube allows for water to get into the soil. A step drill allowed for quick work. Slotted pipes are preferred. The spacing of the holes is about 2 to 3 inches. Both sides are also perforated. The top of the tube has no holes. The tubes are covered with sediment fabric and installed. The tubes have a bend to them, making alignment difficult. Support from 2x4 scrap lumber helped keep them in place. 2 tubes run the width and the rest run the length. The addition of raised garden bed soil to keep the pipes in place was helpful, but messy, and if there are leaks, good luck. A tip from experience is to check for leaks and before covering the tubes with raised bed soil. A drain hole is required. This drain hole is to be just above the pipes. Piercing the lining is necessary. The hole allows for a 1/2 inch drain pipe. Some PEX pipe from a plumbing job will do. It is important to seal around the drain pipe with a waterproof tape, wet and seal for instance. One end of the drain pipe is outside the box, the other is inside and inside the pipe. With a drain in place, the fill tube is needed. The fill tube is installed at the opposite end and into one of the pipes. Actually, a specific pipe, the pipe that runs the width. Here comes the fun part. 17 bags of raised bed soil emptied into the planter box. Ensure soil is between the tubes. Frankly, 4 more bags would help as the earth settled. A level planting bed is an attractive planted bed. As flat as a pizza. 2x4 lumber is being added to portions of the sides to support the trim. These were installed on the outside and looked eccentric. With that, trim is needed for the top. The 45-degree mitered trim pieces are of 1x6 lumber. Making these were quite challenging. More on this later. Pocket hole screws kept the colossal picture frame together. Take a look at the fun building these. Cut away the excess lining or ruin the piece. Finally, the installation of the top trim. A challenge. Try to guess the last task. Leave a comment. The top trim has a 1-inch overhang around. The combination squared makes this alignment easy. Nails secure the trim for the edges. Nails secure the top trim in different diagonal directions. Additional work was done to the top to increase the appearance. With these done, it's time to stain. And finally, the fill pipe is secured by a deck screw. This is the last thing done before filling the planter box with water. Before getting into the challenges, this is what to expect when filling the planter box. It can easily take 20 minutes. According to calculations and an estimated 9 gallons per minute or 2,079 square inches of water, it will take just over 9 minutes to fill. The hose spout reduces 9 gallons to 4 gallons. Expect 20 minutes to fill the planter box. The 1x6 lumber is not equal in length, and some have bows, twists, or damaged sides. This made joinery a problem. Things were not square at all. Clamps were used to bring the pieces in line as best as possible. With that said, the dimensions come from the first side built, using dimensions from the shortest stock, ensuring a great fit. Trimming the excess proved quicker than measuring each 1x6 and cutting. For the smaller sides, measuring and cutting was the only option. With a fence in place, the process went very quick. There is something to point out with the pocket holes. The jig used is fixed for 3/4 inch pocket holes. Recall, some boards have bows. These factors reduce the effectiveness of the pocket holes. Nevertheless, they serve their purposes. Please don't confuse this with the Craig pocket hole jig used to create the top. To overcome this, longer than necessary screws were used. While the jig sufficed, it was not set up for this purpose. A new jig was subsequently bought, problem solved for any future projects. After seeing the level of twisting, 5-inch screws gave some peace of mind. The top trim was not level and made flat using a planer. The results are good except for one section. A screw used in the pocket hole joinery protruded, causing damage to the planer blades. Luckily, the blades are reversible. There was also a leak. The leak came midway filling. The leaks gave themselves away with clues. Finding them was difficult, and a shotgun approach was used. Wet and seal tape was applied to the general area of the leak. This stopped the leak. And with that, the day is won.